Good morning. It's a 15-minute Chassidus shir. And if you'd like to dedicate a shir in honor of someone or a special occasion, you can do so online at RabbiRabin.com. We are learning the Rebbe's Maimer, Vata Tetzave, Tov Shin, Mem Aleph, and Apta Ois Vov. We explained that there are two causes, two reasons, two inyonim, is why it is that the Yid believes in Hashem. That this belief is not strange and foreign, but totally part of a Yiddish neshama. Our life here in Olam Hazeh. That's how we believe. Where does this come from? From two aspects. Either because the neshama in Shemayim sees Hashem, and therefore that seeing, which is higher than understanding, connects the neshama to Elokus. Another reason is, another aspect of the neshama is because of the very essence of the neshama, even as it is here in the Olam Hazeh, and the shaman clothed in the Nefesh Habams and the body, its very essence is godly, and from that comes its belief in Hashem, our belief in Hashem. So, if one's able to bring out either of these two, what's the difference? How does it feel? And here our focus is that the same as Moshe was the Rai Mahemna, in the faithful shepherd in his generation, and Mordechai in his. And so in every generation you have a Rai Mahemna, a faithful shepherd of the Yidden, that's a neshama, that includes with it all neshamas, and is able to bring out everybody's individual connection to Hashem. What do they trigger to bring out? So if the level of the neshama as it sees Hashem above would be revealed completely in the person, that it would be so sure that Hashem exists, would that lead to Mesiras Nefesh? Quite possibly. However, since it's something which the neshama experiences as something outside of itself in Shemayim, and it becomes united in one, as we call it Re'iyah. Re'iyah makes something so attached to the person that they experience and they know it's true, and it becomes just about completely part of them. But it's only just about completely. So even though it is very possible that if a person would have this love for Hashem that's triggered by how the neshama above has seen Hashem, has seen Elokus, has seen the godliness that's permeating our existence and all the spiritual worlds, then it's very possible a person would come to have Mesiras Nefesh, be willing to give their lives for Hashem, because it's so true. However, not necessarily, because it does come as an outside cause. It's not the complete essence of the person. So in order for there to be Mesiras Nefesh, which has a number of different layers or expressions, one is, absolutely, we've seen that Yidden have given up their lives because they're Jewish, just because they're Jewish. That's Mesiras Nefesh, in actuality. And then there's Mesiras Nefesh, living with Hashem in a steadfast determination when it's difficult. And we'll see there's a third aspect too later in the Maimer. But in order to be guaranteed, and it's unquestionable, that for Mesiras Nefesh, for that to come to the fore, that's triggered by the bringing out of the essence of the neshama, the essence of who a Yid is, not because he's seen something, not because it's something like outside of him that he's totally attached to, but because it's his very being, and therefore it's impossible anything else. That's the expression is nit Yid will nor ken the Zanagiris and Felikos. A Yid cannot be, he doesn't want to, and he can't be taken away from Elikos because that's his very being. Where does that feeling come from? That's from the etzem, and can be covered over, because we have the guf of Nefesh Habamas. However, when it comes through, that's when you have the area of Mesiras Nefesh. So when the etzem is revealed, that's where we're into the ballpark of Mesiras Nefesh. Let's learn it inside. Ois Vov. The Inyan who Dezeh Shamod the Yisrael. He be Yoifid. Shuhu Meisa Nafshel. This belief of Yidden in Hashem, the imunus Hashem that you didn't have, is in such a way that he'll give his life for this. This is mainly from the imunah that comes from the etzem of his neshama, the essence of his neshama. The imunah mitzadzeh shehu roya mazla yichazi. This that he has belief in Hashem because he sees Elikos, as he brought the language from the Gemara before, mazla yichazi, hagam shehi b'toikov gadol. Even though it's very, very powerful, it's extremely powerful. Why is it so powerful? Can you do it to his amtus mitzadariya, who his amtus gadol v'yoser? Because when you have this effect that it becomes completely true in your life, becomes one with you, that's because of Riyah. You saw it, then it's extremely powerful. It's joined into your being in an extremely powerful way. It becomes part of you. However, it's a process. Mikol makim kiven shemuna shaloi he mitzadasibah. Since it happened because there was a cause for this. It's not the essential being. It's a cause. And that, as a result of seeing, it becomes part of you. Is mitzadzeh sheroya, that the series that he saw it. Einu kashur im etzem mitziose. It's not joined together with the very essence of his being. It stays as something which is not completely his essence. Even though he's not going to deny it. He's not going to deny it. He can't deny it. You can't, meaning it's so much part of you that it's for sure and for real. However, but it's not necessarily that he will give his life over for this, because it comes from somewhere outside. So there could remain a part which there's me and there's how I experience it, even within the Neshama L'mayla, becomes united with it and one with it. But the process was in such a way that there were two things, and so there remains very subtly, it could remain subtly, that there's an aspect of him which is not completely bonded to it. However, and this that you believe in Hashem, that he'll give up his life for that means to say that there's no life without being attached to Hashem. I'll give up my physical life because who am I? A ruchnistic thing. I'm a Elokus. I'm godly. I'm a Yid. So there is no other life. It's not. I can't have. The only quality of life is being attached to Hashem. There's nothing else. Is who that's because it's very essence. Therefore, it's impossible he should deny the existence of Hashem. And this is how the Yidden were for that full year under the Gzeira, that Mordechai helped bring them out, the essence of the Neshama. And so we learned that Moshe Rabbeinu was the Ryan Mehemda, the first one to help the Yidden. So there's a difference in how this affected the Yidden in the generation of Moshe and how it affected the Yidden in the generation of Mordechai. By Moshe Rabbeinu, he did bring out their etzem. However, they didn't need Mesiras Nefesh. They were living in a pristine world, utopian world. There was no challenges whatsoever in anything. They were called the Doir Deya. The Chazal referred to them. They knew Hashem, meaning they were bonded to Hashem. They lived with Hashem. Godliness was their whole life. And in the Naneh Kavod, with the Man, with the Be'er Shel Miriam, with the learning of Torah from Moshe. So they had this out of this world life. Moshe affected them. So they had Das in Elokus, is what's called the Dur Deya. Das means a complete integration of godliness into their lives. This is after when they were living in the desert for those just about 40 years. The knowledge and the awareness of Hashem permeated who they were. Not like it would be as the Neshama was above, and not like it would be if Moshe hadn't helped them reach that level. Moshe brought out their essence, the etzem of the Neshama, but how did it affect them? It affected them not that they had to have Mesiras Nefesh for anything. It affected them that they complete das. The das that acknowledged the awareness of Hashem permeated their full being. In other words, they came into a panemius. We had the word makif and panemi before. The word makif means it stayed distant. Believed, but it didn't permeate who they were. And this for sure comes from the level of the neshama that sees godliness above. If that's revealed, it could stay distant. In order to internalize it, to become who you are completely here in Eilam Hazeh, that you have to have the Yetzim come out, because the Yetzim is who we are. Iv the neshama, buguf in Eilam Hazeh. So if that's brought out, and you're not in a situation where it's kosis, where you need Mesiras Nefesh, then it shows up in a different way. It comes out that they had a complete awareness of who they were was Hashem. Das is not know. Das is knowing so much that I'm totally aware all the time. And this is how they were affected in the times of the midbar with Moshe Rabbeinu. Where was Mesiras Nefesh needed? In times of Purim, and later in Golus. So this aspect that the Raim Nehemna brings out the etzem of the neshama, really in this aspect, where does it show up the most? Where were they most needed? Where was it most activated? That you didn't live with their etzem haneshama, the very essence of who they are here lamata, not like the neshama sees elokus lamayla, but the very essence. Where did they get that? That was in the time of Golus. So that was shining through Mordechai in the time of Golus, in a way more than it was by Moshe Rabbeinu in the midbar. How did they get it in the midbar? They had das nelikus. The awareness of Hashem permeated who they were. It's a whole different topic. Why? What was the inyan that they didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael before the Meraglim? And so how was it that godliness permeated them, but they could have this mistake? That's a different time, a different topic. But how they felt was that they had this awareness and closeness to Hashem. There's another layer, which is the bittul to Hashem. What does Hashem want? What's the kavon elyono? What's the purpose? What does Hashem want from everybody? This is also going to Eretz Yisrael and work the land, and in our terms, meaning work the gashmis to make a dir Eloy Yisbarach b'tachtoin and bring godliness into this world through refining our bodies, nefesh abamis, and that part of the world which we come in contact with through the Torah mitzvahs and the gashmis. But in the Dur that lived with Moshe Rabbeinu in the midbar for all those years, he brought out their das. So this is and that's how in a pnimis he brought the das of knowledge of Hashem in the pnimis. In Seichel, the Alter Rebbe explains in Perek Gimel in Tanya that the Chabad stands for Chabad is Chochma, the base is Bina, the Dalet is Das. Chabad, Chochma, Bina, Das. And there are three aspects in understanding. Das takes an idea that one understands thoroughly and integrates it into the person, so it becomes what we call bipnimis. So much that they live with it. It becomes my Indian completely. In another shir, maybe in the next shir, we'll talk about this in short, and then finish off the rest of this ois, which describes the Mesiras Nefesh, the revelation of the etzem of the neshama, of that Mesiras Nefesh level, how the difference with Moshe and it was with Mordechai when they needed Mesiras Nefesh l'poil. Thank you for joining, everyone. Have a great day.